Just check and make sure you're going on. Come on. There we go. All right. I just wanted to make sure that we are good to go. And we are. We are live, everybody. Welcome to the Geeks of Rage podcast. And today, I have with me a member of our Super Retro Force Discord group and also fellow content creator, Mr. Koi Fish Gaming. Welcome. Glad to have you here today. How is it going, brother?
Oh, it's going well, man. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite. Always cool to collaborate with a fellow retro gamer, and we're going to be up against quite the tier list because the Super
Oh, yeah.
Nintendo happens to be my favorite system of all time. So yeah, man.
Absolutely. Well, before we get started, if you could, let the fine people know what you do on the tubes of you and where they can find you and all that jazz.
So yeah, Koi Fish Gaming. My daughter and I named it. It was her idea though, so she spelled it with a C because there's already a K Koi Fish. So that's how we did it. And yeah, I've been on YouTube now and Twitch for about 5 years. Been creating content. We started during COVID as a way, an outlet to do something. So we started doing remote play series where I actually remote play with other players around the world, and we do a ton of live streams and a lot of retrospective type content on the channel. So yeah, man, that's kind of where we're at. You can see us on YouTube and Twitch.
There you go. Good old retro content. It does not get much better than that. At least for us, because we're the old men get off our lawns, but that's okay. The good thing is there is actually younger people that are getting hip to the older things, and hopefully some of them will stumble across this here podcast and kind of get some insight on some of these great games that we have in store for them this evening. So, without further ado, I'm going to show you guys here. So, obviously, I'm in the way of a few games, but I'll go through the list here, starting from left to right and then going down. So, you got Super Mario All-Stars with Super Mario World, because that was a combined cart. So, I guess you could say the most awesomeness packed into one cartridge for the time. If Mario All-Stars was not enough, adding Super Mario World was just top tier for back then. So then next to that was Contra 3, The Alien Wars, then Demon Crest, and I'm forgetting what the hell this game was called, the Tallow something or other, because it was a game I never heard of.
What are you talking about? Terra Enigma?
Terra Enigma, yeah. I never heard of it.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
huge.
Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Mega Man X, Chrono Trigger, Super Mario Kart, Super Metroid, Earthworm Jim, Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario RPG, Sunset Riders, Super Smash TV, Super Castlevania 4, The Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, True Lies, UN Squadron, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, and Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. And I apologize, I obviously sound very nasally and congested because I'm a little under the weather, so I apologize to those of you listening in advance. I'll be muting myself every now and again for when I have to clear my throat and stuff, so that way I'm not just going throughout the whole stream. But for those that are new to how we go about doing this, it'll be, sorry about that, hit the wrong button. So how we go about doing this is, so the combined list here, we can put 4 games in each tier. And then on our individual lists, we can put 2 games per tier. And what we're going to do is go back and forth. So I'll start with Koi Fish, let him pick a game off of his list, and he'll tell me where he wants me to put it, on what tier, why he was wanting it in that tier, and then if he has like a little story or something that he'd like to share with us about that game, he would have the floor to do so, and then we'll just go back and forth as far as he'll do that. And then once he is done there, we'll go to our collaborative list and decide between the two of us where we would like that to sit on the overall top 20 board. And then all the while, for each game that we are talking about, I'll post up a poll in the chat so that way you guys get to vote on what games we're talking about and where you guys would like to put them, and you guys will have your own top 20 list. So that way you guys don't feel left out and you can interact with us and let us know how you feel about certain stuff along the way. So that being said, Mr. Koifish, what is the
Yo,
first
all
game
right.
would you like to talk
This
about?
is an obvious choice, and man, you're in for a fight when it comes to this one.
Uh-oh.
I gotta say, Chrono Trigger is S tier.
Oh
All right,
boy.
I'm starting with the biggest one,
Oh
in my
man.
opinion.
Okay. So why do you
I
want
will.
it in S tier?
Well, Chrono Trigger to me is one of the most important games ever made. It actually got me into the genre of JRPGs. I remember back in 1995 getting that sucker for Christmas and absolutely being blown away by the story, the graphics, the music, and everything about it. I literally think there's never been a game developed to this day that has passed Chrono Trigger when it comes to the time that it was released and what it offered. It truly is a masterpiece, and definitely my favorite game of all time. So it's gonna be hard, man. I'm gonna die on that one for sure. I'll die on that sword for sure.
Hey, that's all right, man.
That's
Everybody's got their thing. I
I had to
totally
start
get it.
strong, man.
Oh, you're good. And I know I'm not going to say it's not worthy of being an S tier game. The problem was for me, and I know we briefly talked about this on Discord, I never got to finish it. I started up a file a while ago. I might have only got like an hour or two into it, and then I just never went back to it. And it's not because I didn't like it. It's just, you know how it is sometimes you go through stuff and you end up forgetting about it. And then before you know it, you go, oh man, like I don't even remember the last time I picked it up, and then you forget where you're at. And you know how it is with RPGs. If you forgot where you're at now, you got to go and try to use a walkthrough, and you don't want to use a walkthrough because you want to try to get
No,
through it as
man.
organically as possible, at least in my opinion anyway, to get the best experience. But yeah, but that was the only reason why I did not finish it, but I would like to finish it. So I
Yeah, I'm just gonna say to you before you continue. Please finish the game.
yeah,
Please, for the
I
love of God.
I know, I know. I know. I'm sure it was like a dagger to the heart when I was like, yeah, I never got to finish it. You're like, no,
I thought you were joking at first, to be honest. I was like,
no,
"There's no way." I thought you were
no,
just saying it just to hurt my feelings,
no,
and then
no.
you kept pushing the knife in, and I'm like, "Oh, this is real."
Yeah, it was real. And I felt bad. I'm like, no, it's so I would have to say, just from where I've gotten to so far, I would at least say A, but since you want it in, would you want it in S on the overall top 20?
Oh, it's the best game ever made for any
Okay.
system.
All right. So there you go. So it's S all the way then. Okay, cool. So at least we got that squared away. So just looking at briefly where the chat's got it, there's two people got it in B tier and one person has it in S. Oof. All
Yikes
right.
here. You
All
guys have no souls.
All right. So take the average on that and then put that, we'll say A tier for the chat. So now going on me. First game I'm going to talk about, let's see. This is tough, man. Because I almost want to follow suit. Like if you do a S tier, I should do an S tier. But I know I've had issues in the past where I've started off hot, putting stuff in the S tier, and then as I went along, I was like, damn it, I shouldn't have done that. But I'm gonna
Good. Oh well.
let's see. I'll do, I guess, an easy, maybe not easy, because it's still a great game. But I'll start with True Lies, and I'll put that in D tier. Now, and the only reason why is again, it's all it is it's a D tier amongst its peers. It does not mean I think it's a crappy game because I really do think that True Lies was a great game and very, very difficult in my opinion. If you have not played it, it's a very tough game. But it's an overhead shooter similar to Smash TV is how the viewpoint is, which is why I got intrigued by it years ago as a kid because I absolutely love Smash TV. Even though as rage-inducing as it is, I still think it's a fantastic game, and I still play it periodically. And I actually talked about it on the Super Retro Force channel, saying that it's a relaxing game for me, and the reason is though is not because the game itself is relaxing. It's like when I'm having like if I'm like say I'm agitated or whatever, and I'm just wanting to just go nuts on a game. That's like the type of game I want to play. Boatload of action, just blowing people away and just unleashing hell and chaos. And that's why I think Super Smash TV is a relaxing game. But anyways, going back to True Lies, for the time, I don't think we had very many like really good movie adaptation games up to this point because I think this came out around 94 if I recall correctly. But I thought for a movie game, I mean, I thought it was really, really good. And the music I thought was really well put together. Uh, the difficulty again was very, very hard, especially for a child at that point in time. But it definitely, it definitely pushed you to try to engage with your inner gamer to try to go to that next level per se. And it's not just an easy breezy walk in the park. Did you happen to have any experience playing this game at all?
Well, it's funny when I saw this on the, your top 10, I was actually floored. I couldn't believe it.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, I played it and I was like, this is okay. But you know what? You said it yourself. You explained it well. You like Smash TV.
Yes.
But here's a question for you. Did you like Super Smash TV or Smash TV better?
I did like the SNES version better. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm a
Okay.
Genesis guy. Like when it comes down to it, overall, I had the in my for myself, I had the best experiences with the Genesis overall, but I'm not one to sit there and just, die on the sword like everything has to be Genesis. If I felt something was better on a different console, like in this case, Super Smash TV, yes, I'm going to say the alternative was better. And yes, for me, Super Smash TV was better than Smash TV on the Genesis.
Fair enough. Yeah, so True Lies, I definitely would put it on the D. Personally, I think you made the right choice. Compared to some of these titles, it's not hard to see that your nostalgia for the actual title is probably, probably a little bit blinding. Um, but it's not a bad game. It's just that there's so many great games on the Super Nintendo. And that's the thing, even the ones that some people consider throwaway games,
Yeah,
Super Nintendo had a really complete library. The
yeah,
only two other systems that I would say that are comparable are the PlayStation 1 and the Sega Genesis. Both of those systems have like such a strong library that yeah, you just see instances like this. A game that I didn't play much that you absolutely adored, right?
right. Yep. And that's how it is too. It's like for everybody has a different story to tell, which is why I like doing these types of live streams, man. I like hearing other people's angles because we all grew up playing different stuff. And I'll speak for myself here. I didn't start emulating in full until I was probably in junior high, so I was about 13 years old. So up to that point, so that was 1999. So up to that point, I was only playing stuff on original hardware, so whatever I played up to that point was just that was it. So I mean, this was one of those games that I did not have it on the SNES. A buddy of mine did, but I hung around him so much, and this was a game that we both tried to grind out until we finally were able to beat it, and it was very satisfying for me when I finally beat it because this game it took me forever. It was like almost like I don't want to say it was as hard as Comic Zone because that one took me forever to beat.
Oh, that's
But
such a hard game, man.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
damn.
But it was like up there though when I finally beat it. I was like, oh, it happened. Finally, that big
Yeah.
release. But yeah. So your next game, what would you like to talk about, and where would you like me to put it on your tier list?
Oh, this is rough, man. Jesus, this is rough. So if it didn't get to S tier, what happens? Do I have to
It's gotta, yeah. If it doesn't go to, so obviously, again, you get 2 games per tier. So if S tier's filled up, then it automatically would default to A.
okay, so but that one won or that one got an A on average for the combined. Okay, I got you. For my list, it
Yeah,
can only be two. two choices.
Right. On our
All right.
individual list, we got 2, and then our combined, we got 4 slots. Yes.
Oh, damn, this is gonna be hard to do, dude. Ah,
It
shit.
is.
Okay. Number two. Number two, I'm going to give it to because of the value the cart offers. Super Mario All Stars, Super Mario World. And I say Mario, you got to get over it. You can
Yeah.
say Mario all you want. I was at East Coast, born and raised Canadian. It's just the way it is.
It's
Just
in
got to
his
get over
DNA. Give him a break, folks.
it. I know, right? I know it's wrong. I know. I can't help it.
And so where's this going?
That's S tier.
S tier. Ooh, so you're
Yeah,
going to lock down S with these games already.
I'm gonna work down.
Oh,
Yep.
man. Okay. All right. So let us know, why do you want this in the S tier?
So I would say that the original Super Mario Brothers games, 1, 2, and 3 for the NES were incredible games. Absolutely incredible. But here we're getting a full-on remaster. We've got the lost levels added to it as well, which we didn't get in North America. My first time getting to play that game was through the lost levels of this cart. And then you've got arguably one of the best platformers ever made of all time, which is Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, with sprite improvements for Luigi. Luigi has better sprites in this version that he didn't have in the original version of the game. So it, to me, is the most, to this day, I think it is the most complete cartridge ever made, and probably the best compilation of games ever made. And that includes some of the new Steam releases, like the Castlevania collection and all that stuff. I still will go to the grave that this is the best cart for the money ever. Ever.
I can't argue that, because, no, it's true. When you look at that, you're getting all the originals, which, again, back then, I can speak for myself. When I first played Mario All Stars, I thought that was crazy. I was like, man, they made it look so much better, because like that was, I think up to that point, that I think that was like the first technical like remaster ever. Am I wrong in that? Was the Mario All Stars the first like remaster?
If it wasn't the first remaster, it was certainly the most popular. Definitely the most recognizable. I would imagine on PC, there was probably some remasters in the past that if we go back
Okay.
into the DOS days, maybe to Windows, like maybe Earthworm Jim, that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'd have to go back. It would be a ways back, but I'm sure that if we looked far enough, there would be something else. But when I think of remasters, yeah, it's the first one I can think of.
Yeah, and when I
So
seen it, the way the presentation was, oh, and I was blown away, because I was like, "This is what original Super Mario could look like. This is crazy," because like I was a
yeah,
little kid, and I was blown away by it, and I loved that they had the save feature. Because again, I didn't play emulation at this point, so the idea that you could save as you went instead of trying to feel tied down, that you had to play everything through in one sitting, that was pretty cool to me. And because I know, like, when I was a kid, a lot of times whenever I was playing games and stuff with people, it seemed like our families were relatively busy. So it was like, if you actually had a full hour to play a game, I mean, it was, a rarity, unless it was in the middle of winter and you're just snowed in your house and you can't leave. But if it was, spring, summer, or fall, oh, I mean, it was usually got kicked out of the house, or the parents were dragging us to all over Timbuktu. So the idea of actually sitting down and playing a game for an extended period of time, it didn't happen very often, at least for myself, anyways. So I will say, this is hard, because where would you still, in your mind, would you want it on S tier on the top 20?
ah, well, that'll be an interesting conversation as to what we decide
Because I was gonna go,
the factors would be, right?
I was gonna go,
Because
I'm going A or
as a
B.
game, as value, it's an S
Yes,
tier.
yeah,
As a game, I mean, it could be argued if it was A or S to me.
and
Um,
I'm going
because there
A
are
and B, but
stronger individual games, like there,
okay,
you know what I mean? There
yeah.
are stronger individual games, but they don't offer the value of this card.
Uh, I know. That's where I'm at too. Because you got what is it? Because I'm trying to think of the original ones plus the lost levels. You got what, four games right? With All Stars, then plus Super Mario World makes it 5
Yeah,
games
you
in
get
one.
5 total games, and then if you include the battle mode that's actually in the Super Mario 3 game, you got the battle mode. It's technically 6, right? It's crazy.
I'm good with it being an A.
I'm fine with A.
You're good
I
with
think
A?
A is fair
Okay.
for, if we're talking about value, S. If we're talking about overall, like how groundbreaking it is, I think A is fair.
Okay. I'm good with that. So we got 2 votes so far from the chat. They got 100% in S tier currently. I'll let that sit for a little bit more. So I see we got five viewers currently right now. So 3 of you need to do some work. Go vote. Where do you want it? Come on.
All right.
Give us some interaction, people.
I'm gonna get some people in here now. I'm just sharing it around.
Yeah,
So
I
I'll get
didn't
some
share it
people.
on Discord.
This is a very unusual time for me to be streaming, so it's like
Yeah.
people are. Yeah, it's fine.
All right. So
I'll get some Super Nintendo fans in here. Like I literally got. Yeah, you keep going.
I'm trying to just think of which one I'm going to talk about now. I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm going to go, man, because like all these games, they're so good. And I'm going,
Yeah, we kind of screwed ourselves a bit.
I
Didn't we?
know. I
mean,
know. Usually I
man.
give myself a couple layups, but this time the only layup I gave myself really was True Lies. Everything else, I'm like, this is tough.
Yeah.
Damn. I'm going to go, oh my God. I'll go UN Squadron. And, oh man, I'm going, I think, I'm going between A and B, and I'm just trying to think to myself, where do I really want it? Because what games do I think are better than it? I might regret it, but we'll see. But I'm gonna go A tier for UN Squadron. And I know some people get turned off by shmups because typically they are very difficult. However, I loved the concept of UN Squadron when I first played it. Like the way that you went about upgrading your stuff for your ships by basically the more you destroyed, the more points / dollars you got, which was how you got to upgrade your ship to make them stronger, better, etc. And just the excuse me, the graphics for it too, I thought were really well put together, and it had that of course, it had like the Japanimation type style, not quite anime, but you could tell it was like Japanese style with how the cartoon pictures looked and stuff like that. And I was always drawn to that stuff as a kid, so that was always a plus. But this was one I never beat organically. I did beat it with save states, but I never beat it start to finish because it is a very hard game. I know there might be some people out there that absolutely love shmups and they're like, oh, this isn't really that hard of a game. But to me, I felt like it was pretty damn difficult. I mean, I've gotten a little over halfway through the game. And the only reason I know I'm over halfway is because I did beat it with save states. But the furthest I can get without using save states is a little over halfway through. And then I end up hitting the wall every time, and I end up just dying where I do, and then try to do it all over again. But it's just, I don't know, just for me, I just think just when I look at the whole thing of shmups for the times, and again, just the overall presentation on how they did everything, I thought it was really well put together. And it's one that I can go back and play at any point in time, because that's another thing I try to keep in the back of my mind is when I'm ranking these games is the replayability, as far as can I go back and just keep playing this over and over and over again. And this is one that I can, even though I haven't technically beat it, I get the satisfaction to go back and still try it again and just, and that's it for me. How about you? Do you got any experience with UN Squadron?
I love the game. I can complete it. I'm one of those guys. I don't use shame states if I don't have to, but hey, there's
Yeah.
no shame in shame states,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It is a masterpiece. It's funny you said you came from the Genesis.
Yes.
I would argue that you're right, that this is the best shoot 'em up for the Super Nintendo when it comes to it's two-player too, isn't it?
I don't.
If
You
I'm
know
not
what? I don't
mistaken.
know. I.
I think it might be, and if it's not, maybe I'm getting it mixed up with Darius. But the game itself is very anime inspired. But
Yeah.
you're right; it was that '90s style anime
Yeah.
where it was kind of, it wasn't really picked up. It was more like Akira, the
Yeah.
movie Akira. And yeah, it's an incredible game. I think that it goes for a lot of dollars right now in today's world, and for good reason. It really is a fantastic game. I personally love those style of games. The Genesis, I would say, did that genre better, and even the TurboGrafx 16, just because of the speed difference. But that game didn't suffer from too much slowdown, which is a rare thing for Super Nintendo as well. So yeah, I think you're on the money. I think it's a great pick, and yeah, I think that I would put that in the A tier for sure.
The irony is, I didn't even know there was a Genesis port. I thought that was a
For
straight
that
up
game?
end. Yeah, I thought. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I just did not know that.
No, I
Now,
didn't say there was a Genesis port, but I'm
oh,
saying
I see.
it's funny that you came from the
Oh,
Genesis
I
world
yeah.
where shmups were more
Oh, yeah.
common, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yes, they were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's no port for that one.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, I'm like, man. I was like, how the hell did I miss that one?
Yeah, no, that would be cool. Now, speaking of that, I gotta follow up because speaking of the Genesis and how awesome the shoot 'em ups are for that game, Thunder Force 3 and Thunder Force 4 are so good, and so is Gaia Res. Gaia Res is amazing. If you've never played any of
That is
those,
a freaking hard game, but it's fun too. I love it.
I got a deathless run of that game on the channel, dude.
Man, there ain't no way in hell I'm doing a deathless on it. I have a hard
Oh,
time trying to beat it, let alone deathless.
oh, it's a real bastard to beat for sure.
Because like with shmups, even when you know the pattern on stuff, it's still the reflexes. If your reflexes aren't there, you get screwed every time. And
Yeah,
that's the joy that I get out of shmups is even though when you figure out that pattern, if you don't hit stuff in the right way on how you're maneuvering and stuff, it throws off your entire game. And it's yeah, that's why I love that stuff. So for our
have you
top,
tried?
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go
No,
ahead.
I was going to ask you. Have you tried the Gradius 3 SA1 ROM hack?
No, I've not.
Oh my god. You should just do it just to try it.
Yeah.
When they take the slowdown out of that game, because
Yeah.
that's what it does, right?
Okay.
It becomes the hardest shoot 'em up of all time. I don't I'm serious.
I can imagine. Because there's so many
And it's like
points
an
in
easy
Gradius
game,
that I'm
right?
like, I just need one speed up, just one. I don't. If I could just get that one, I'll be
I get
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like if
Yeah,
I have
without it,
none,
you just die instantly.
oh my god, yeah, that's rough. So on our top 20, where would you say UN Squadron would lie?
On our top 20, it would be hard. I think almost like the top 20 almost needs to be kind of done at the end when we look at it all. Because I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, top 20, I'd put around 10 maybe.
So you'd say A tier? Oh wait, no, because
I'd
no, that'd be B tier. Because they'll say we
I
got
think that
four
would be
per.
B for me.
Yeah, I'm good with that. No, I was thinking about the same thing because I was like, if I have it on A on mine, I'm looking at the
I
grand
can't
scheme of things
compare it
here.
to that cart that it's right next to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Just can't.
All right, so I'm good with that. All right, so going back to yours, what is the next game that you would like to talk about?
All right. I've got my two S's picked. I'm looking at your live stream here. All right, we're gonna go with the A's next. I'm gonna go with Super Metroid for A. Super Metroid to me is one of the most atmospheric games ever made. Me and my brother bought it back in 1994 when it came out, and everybody and their dog who had a Super Nintendo had this game. And I remember actually being stuck for almost a week at the part where you need to find Kraid, which is the first super boss. You have to jump up and use your high jump boots in order to get through this monster and go in through. But there's a crack in the floor, and it was very like you would never guess that this was where you had to go. So we were going back and forth there for a week. And I managed to figure out, hey, I'm just going to bomb this crack. And we got down through and we got great. And it was those moments in Super Metroid because there was no internet back then, really. I mean, it was very rudimentary. We had to figure things out. I was the first one in my community, and a lot of us had the game to figure out that you actually had to get down through the damn floor.
Yeah.
The music in that game is so atmospheric. The sprite work is incredible. The boss battles are great. There's a reason it's being speedran to this day at such a high level. Absolute masterpiece, and to me, still the best Metroid game ever made.
And this was another one I never got to finish. I started.
Oh God,
I know.
no, man.
I know. I started it. I've tried starting it multiple times, and then like I just for some strange reason I keep forgetting to go back, and I just haven't. And but I will agree with you, the aesthetics for a game of its time were just bar none amazing, and um, I would say for the times off the top of my head, I think the not only other game, but the other game that happens to be on your list that for me kind of I don't want to say rivaled it as far as graphic wise, but kind of to compare and contrast Mega Man X. I love the graphics on that. When I
Yeah,
first saw that, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like that. I
they
mean,
haven't
it blew my
aged a
mind.
bit, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy good. But when skimmed through just because I got curious like forever ago, so I just wanted to see how the game progressed for Super Metroid, and yeah, I mean just the visuals and just how everything looked. I thought it looked good, and it's a game that I would like to play. It's just I got to go back, and I don't know. I remember I had this conversation. I can't remember who it was, but uh, I made the comment saying that I would probably be lazy and have to get a walkthrough if it was anything like the original Metroid because the original Metroid, I mean, even as a kid, I remember my one buddy, he had like a paper map basically that he made for the original Metroid for NES. And I was sitting there thinking, like, if I got to do something like that with Super Metroid, I'm never going to get through it because I don't have that type of patience to try to make my own map to go back and forth. So I would end up having to use a walkthrough to get through it if it's anything like the original. But,
Luckily, it's not though because it has an awesome map, a
okay.
really good map. Yeah,
Okay.
it's got a map. You press select, you can go to your map, and it's probably one of the most advanced maps for the Super Nintendo, to be honest.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that will help out drastically. Because yeah,
Oh
that was
yes.
the thing about the original NES one. I never finished that one for that reason. I remember getting relatively far in it in comparison. I guess I should say I was relatively far. My buddy who actually beat it told me that I was like probably a little over halfway. He's like, if you just wouldn't have stopped, you'd probably beat it. And now I don't even remember where to go anymore because it's been so long ago that I'm like, maybe one day. But Super Metroid, I definitely do want to go back. And the lovely thing is, for those that might not know about this or engage in retro achievements, but I love trying to do some retro achievements. It gives me an excuse to go back and play certain games. And Super Metroid would definitely be, or I should say, it is rather. It's on my list because I got my own list that I make up. Like when I find games, I'll click and for like want to play this that, and everything. So I got my own list of games I'm going through um, on my profile. But that is one that I could definitely see myself once I start playing it. I'm definitely going to go down the rabbit hole and try to grind that one out for an extended period of time to try to. I don't know if I'll master it because I went through and looked at some of the achievements for it. I don't know if I'll ever master it, but I think I'll get close because there's a few games that I got all but one achievement for certain things because some of them are pretty tough. Like, for instance, Ghouls and Ghosts on the Genesis. The one that I don't have I'd master it if I got it was you have to beat the game in full without using a single continue. And I'm like, I don't think I could do it. I can beat it, but I ain't gonna be able to beat it without using a continue. So I think that one's just gonna sit where it lies. But anyhow, enough of me rambling.
All
Um,
good, man.
For our top 20, where would you like to see Super Metroid?
Top 20. I'm looking here. It's gotta be A tier. It's gotta be.
I'll roll with it. I'm good with that. 'Cause I can't
You
argue
didn't
it.
finish. That's the thing, man. You haven't finished
I
them
can't.
yet.
I say
You
I
really
can't. I
gotta
can't
get to
really
these.
argue it. I could sandbag and
Yeah.
just be like, B or C, but I can't really give an actual assessment, so I can't really argue it. So A, it will sit. So getting back to the chat, it looks like they got UN Squadron, one for A, one for B, and whenever you guys vote, because I only got 4 slots, because I put C/D. Make sure
Yeah.
you put which letter you want in the chat, so that way I know, because I'm just assuming C at this point. So, 1A, 1B, and then one for C and D. But I'm going to end the poll there, and I'm going to say that it's going to sit at B. So there we go.
Super
So,
Metroid. Man, calling Super Metroid a B would be like actually criminal to so many people. I mean, but we got such a list here.
oh
I mean,
yeah,
this is gonna be hard, man. This is gonna be controversial.
it is. And that's why, like, it's so funny when certain people, like I was telling you, there's gonna be people that pop in and they're gonna, why would you even say that? It's because they don't understand the format, because they don't know what we're
Yeah.
doing. So then I have to explain, like, no, it's just because it's being ranked amongst themselves, and we're limiting on how many games we're putting per tier, because a lot of these games, if we wanted to do it the way we would, it'd probably be like all S and A. More than likely, except I'd still
Well,
say True
yeah.
Lies would probably still be around like my C or D tier,
It would
but
still
even
be the
still,
D, yeah.
yeah. But everything else would be like in that S or A, or at the lowest would probably be the B range, and that'd only be like maybe a couple games.
Well, that's the problem with the Super Nintendo, isn't it? Because you look at it, it set so many trends for games that we currently play,
Yeah,
and every single one of them are an example of an S tier product within their own lane, you know? And it makes this a lot harder, but that's the fun of this because
exactly.
we gotta try to figure this shit out.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Derek Dempsey, how you doing, man? Welcome. Good buddy of mine,
Oh well,
moderator on the channel.
nice. Glad you decided to come and hang out with us for a bit. Who called it a
Yeah,
B? Lock him up.
I know, Dempsey, it's rough. It's gonna be a stressful night.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go. Let's see. I'm gonna go Demon's Crest, and I'm gonna put that. I may or may not regret this, because I'm keep going in my head, going between B and C, but I'm thinking I'm gonna put it in C.
I Yeah.
That's where I think I'm putting it for me. So, Demon's Crest. Funny story. How I found out about this game was through emulation, and I thought it was a ROM hack when I first played it, because I never heard of the game, right? And I'm playing through, I'm going, oh, you get to play as the freaking gargoyle from Ghouls and Ghosts. This is the shit. And freaking, I'm playing through and stuff. And again, like I said, in my mind, I thought it was a ROM hack, but in reality, no, it was a real game. And then I looked into, how come I never heard of it? Like, I don't remember, I never heard any advertisements for it, or I don't remember any of the kids that, I grew up around ever talking about it or anything like that. And from what I remember reading a while back, I guess it caused a lot of controversy for back in the day. Now, keep in mind, this is the 90s. So there were still the parents that were like certain stuff, like, a game called Demon's Crest. It's like, oh God, it's Satan. It's satanic and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, you had those types of parents were still, at the forefront of trying to, I guess you could say, censor certain stuff like that, rather be music or otherwise. But I heard that, from what I read anyways, that was kind of why it got not necessarily shelved, but there was limited quantities as to how many actually got released, and why the sales weren't as good, because it got a lot of backlash. But it is a really good game. it's technically pretty short once you know where to go and how to go about doing things. And ironically enough, I'm not going to go too far in it, but after you and I made our lists, I went back and played through Demon's Crest just because I hadn't played it in such a long time. But going back to retro achievements was why, because it wasn't, I hadn't played it yet on my list. So I was like, I'll at least run through it and try to beat it and this, that, and the other thing. So I did that, beat it. And yeah, so I could actually grade it accordingly. And I would say graphic wise, I think they hit it out of the park big time. I think the graphics were really, really good for this game. And the gameplay, it, I don't want to, it wasn't clunky. It's almost like I don't know how to describe it. It's almost
It's
like,
stiff. It's
it's like,
stiff controls.
yeah, the controls are a little stiff and, there's a lot of timing stuff involved, but it's still well put together. And just the way that they did stuff, how you traverse through the map, and there's no technical set way in which you have to traverse through everything, I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, but I mean that's really it. I won't filibuster on it anymore, but overall I think it is a great game and one if you have not played, definitely check it out. What say you?
So for me, it's something like yourself. The first time I ever played it was actually through emulation on the old ZS NES emulator back in the day. Yeah, sprite work is amazing. Music's really good. It was definitely Capcom trying something different and not quite hitting the mark on all avenues when it comes to controls. The abilities and stuff are really good in it, but I always felt like when I played a game called Sky Blazer, I don't know if you played that one for Super
No,
Nintendo.
I did not. I don't think
But
anyways.
Sky Blazer is a masterpiece that I almost put on this list. Really incredible game, great music, great boss battles. It was made by Sony Image Soft, and I feel like that was kind of a. I wish that this game had Sky Blazer's fluid control scheme because I do feel like the whole flying aspect, you fly like you have to rise and then kind of fly straight. There's no like ability to really fly in all directions very easily. I feel like it's just like it was a really good idea, and the fact that it was based off, Super Ghouls and Ghosts sort of thing.
Yeah.
The red gargoyle was really cool. But I don't think it hit the marks that it tried to. So I think you're right to put it where you put it.
So you would
Truly.
agree with putting would you put it excuse me, would you put it in C tier for our top 20 or would you think D tier?
I think C is more than fair for
Okay.
that game. It
All
does a
right.
lot of things right, but it does a lot of things wrong as well.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I got the chat currently voting on that. The chat currently they put Super Metroid in A. They had 2 votes for A, one for S, and then one for B. So I figured try to kind of average those out, and that'd be basically A.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Um, so yeah, now they're voting on Demon's Crest. We got 3 votes for C/D. Let me know in the chat. Do you want it in C or do you want it in D? Because until one of those fills up, I only got the 4 slots available. Okay, so moving on along. What's the next game you want to talk about? And you're just going top to bottom, so this is going to be an A tier rank, correct?
Ah, it is. Oh, this is going to be one of the hardest decisions yet. I'm caught. I'm really torn between. I'll tell you what I'm torn between. I'm torn between Legend of Zelda. I'm torn between Yoshi's Island. And I'm
Ooh.
torn between Mega Man X. And it's going to be hard because they're all masterpieces. But here's the one I'm going to give a slight edge to. I'm going to give the slight edge to. I'm going to regret this. I'm going to give the slight edge to A Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
I don't think that's bad. I really don't.
Yeah, I think I kind of have to have that up there. So, as an A tier title, I think that it set the trend for what a two-dimensional Zelda game should be. Absolute masterpiece. the fact that you could go to the dark world with the magic mirror and back and forth with the portals opened up such a dynamic gameplay. Music's incredible.
Hmm.
Boss battles are incredible. It's such a long game. Like the first time you play this game without a guide, you're in for a long, long ass time, and there's a
Yep.
lot of secrets in it you're gonna have to find. I mean, I think it's two-dimensional Zelda at its absolute best. And when it comes to the Super Nintendo as a more early release for the console, I mean, it's timeless. You can go
Yeah.
back today and play that game and have just as much fun as you would back in 1991, which is just crazy to me. So yeah, absolute masterpiece. When I rented this game for the first time,
Hmm.
I knew I had to have it in my collection, and it's still one that I play once or twice every single year, and I will until I die,
That's
for sure.
that's when you know a game hits you in the all gives you all the feels, man. And I know um, everybody's different as far as what games do that for them. I'm not gonna go in all the details as to why, but I'll tell you about obviously Streets of Rage 2. I just
Oh
went
God, I
through
love
and
that game too.
I just went through and played through it the other day. Just it gave me an excuse to do it because I was trying to shameless plug here, but I'm working on doing videos to give little tricks and tips on how to get certain retro achievements. So one of the videos I'll be doing is about how to get certain achievements for Streets of Rage 2. So it gave me an excuse to go do a playthrough of it real quick. I was like, yeah, now I get another excuse to play it. I don't care because I probably played through it like 1,000 times, but I really don't care. It's one of those things where it's all the vibes and it's just a great game. But yeah, I totally get it,
Who's
man.
your main? Who's your main with that game?
Axel, easy.
Axel?
Yeah,
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Since you were nice enough to invite me, I'm gonna give you a
mm,
formal invite to my channel.
yeah.
Um, we're going to play through Streets of Rage 1 and 2 on a stream.
Ooh,
And all you require is a computer with a controller
got it.
and a decent internet connection,
Oh, I
which you
should have
obviously
plenty.
have.
Yeah, I got 2 gigs. I should be good.
Yeah, you're fine. You're like me. I got 1.5 up
Yeah.
and down. So I'm going to invite you within the next month or so
Okay.
to play on the channel, and we'll do a remote play live stream, and you'll get to experience what that's like on my channel.
Hey, that's
So you're
perfectly fine
formally
with me. Hell
invited.
yeah.
Streets Rage 1 and Streets Rage 2 co-op
You heard it
live
here.
with me.
That's right. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Any excuse for me to play Streets of Rage, I'm here for it. Now, Streets of Rage 1, as much as I love playing as Adam, I'm actually the best with Blaze on Streets of Rage 1. Just because
Yeah.
for movements, because she moves the fastest, so I'm able to crowd control a lot easier with her than I am with Adam or Axel on Streets of Rage 1.
I'll be the Atom man, and I'm gonna be Max on Streets Rage 2.
I love Max. Don't get me wrong, I love Max, but I don't know why. I've tried. I'm gonna end up having to do it on a stream just to really push myself. I haven't beat it on hardest with Max. I've
Ah,
I've beat it on hardest with Axel and Blaze. I have not beat it on hardest with Skate or Max. Those are the two that I have not beat it
I'm
on hardest with.
surprised you haven't with Skate. Skate is incredible for crowd control.
It's just my problem is it's like once I start getting pinballed, I get flustered a little too quick. But his A attack is very well. Obviously, when he spins and just knocks everybody around, it's just I end up not. I just don't. It's probably because I don't play with him enough like I should. It's just trying to strategize the timings and stuff because obviously he's pretty squishy for the most part, and his normal attacks don't do a whole hell of a lot. So you got to strategize his special in there to try to, do some decent damage. But that's why, like for me with Streets of Rage 2, Axel and Blaze are 1 and 2. I'd say Axel's my definite main for the obvious reasons. It's easy just to time out the uppercut, and then after that,
Oh yeah.
throw people around for crowd control purposes and trying to just time out the drop kick and stuff like that to kind of do the same thing with crowd control and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So, without getting too far into it,
Yeah.
I'll ask you one last question about Streets of Rage. Your thoughts of Streets of Rage 4 in 10 seconds.
Oh, fantastic. That's all I have to. I mean,
Yeah.
that anybody, if you want to crap on it, I don't see how you can. It far exceeded my expectations. I did
Yep.
like I was kind of worried because how remakes or remasters have happened over the years with stuff that's happened at a later date. I just thought that it was going to be a cash grab type of thing. But when I played it, I was blown away. I was just beyond just beside myself. I couldn't believe like the job they did was just so well all the way around, and I could not have been more happy about
Good,
Streets of Rage
good to
4
hear it.
because
Yeah, it
Streets of
feels
Rage
like the true
3,
it feels like the true successor
yeah,
to 2 instead of
correct,
3, which
yes,
was very different,
yes.
right?
3 was
All
my
right,
least favorite.
awesome, man.
Yep.
Cool. Well, like I said, we'll do it.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you start enjoying your time over there, you never know where things could go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So where were we at? So for our top 20, where would you want Zelda Link to the
Yeah, I
Past?
just got to see your list here. Okay, so uh we got to it's I feel like God. I'm going to say I'm going to try A, man. I'm going to try A because I think it's such an important game. Um it just hasn't really been surpassed when it comes to two-dimensional Zelda games. It's just a masterpiece through and through. I would I would sort of accept a B. If you want to put it in B, you
No.
can. But I think it definitely deserves its place in gaming history as an A tier title. It technically is just below an S tier, in my opinion.
I'll explain why. So this was another one never got to complete. I started playing it on emulation when I was in high school. I got pretty far into it, and the only reason why I knew on that was because I was using a walkthrough because I was being lazy, and there was like you said, there's certain things if you try to go in blind, you're really gonna be. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I was getting very impatient about. And I'm going, what the hell am I supposed to do? And so I got frustrated and was like, fuck it,
Yeah.
I'm getting a walkthrough, and then that's what I did. And I know I got pretty far into it, but I never got to complete it. And sadly, the computer that I had it on had an issue with it, and my mom ended up wiping the computer without saying anything to me. So I was like, no, and then I just never went back and played through it.
Good news, it's a 5-hour game if you play it through it sensible.
Okay.
It doesn't take long.
Well, that's good. So that's going to be another one that's, again, definitely going to be on the list for sure because I love Zelda, the original one for the NES. I shouldn't say I dislike Link, the second one. It was almost like, I guess maybe I can empathize with those that, how we were talking earlier about people who don't like the second Mario, and I was like, I don't see how. It's still a good game. Well, that's how I feel about the second Zelda. I was like, it's not bad.
It's the
but
redheaded stepchild
just
syndrome, right?
Yeah.
It's every series seems to have one of them.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Yeah, for sure.
So that's me.
Castlevania. I think Castlevania, Simon's Quest.
Yeah.
Simon's Quest was so different than the original formula. You know, it's just that time they did that with every game.
Okay, so going back to me here. Let's see. People might argue with me on this one, but
It'll be me.
I
don't know what you're doing.
I am going to put Super Ghouls and Ghosts at S.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I gotta hear this one.
So, number one, everybody obviously has their own niche of play style on what they gravitate towards, right? So number one, platforming type games, it's like towards the top, like platformers, shooters, beat 'em up, stuff like that. And I felt like Ghouls and Ghosts when I was a kid. The first Ghouls and Ghosts games I played was the original, well, not the original, but the original, just the Ghouls and Ghosts for the Sega Genesis, not Ghosts and Goblins for NES. But I played Ghouls and Ghosts first. But when I seen Super Ghouls and Ghosts, man, the graphics drew me in instantly. I thought it was just so well put together. The layers, like just they put a lot of thought into that game. I think maybe more than possibly it gets credit for when you look at the grand scheme of things. The difficulty, it's definitely super hard. At least it was for me. it took me forever to organically beat it all the way through. I probably beat it a handful of times using save states to get used to the timings on how to do certain stuff before I finally ground it out to beat it without using them. But it's just one that, again, when I was talking about replayability, this is a game that I can just go and turn it on and at any point in time, and I'm good. And I don't have to, I'm not going to be feeling like I'm bored or anything like that. I get satisfaction from traversing through the levels and the constant action that's involved with it. It just, I don't know. It's out of the games I got on my list, I can play this the most out of probably almost all of these except maybe one, which we'll get to at some point, obviously. But that's what I got for Ghouls and Ghosts. It's more, I don't want to say nostalgia, but I mean, again, I did play this on OG hardware as well, so I got to play this off and on since I was about 7 years old. But what's your experience with it? Because I know you've had to have played it, obviously.
Oh my God. I'm shocked actually that you're S tiering it. I can
Yeah.
understand it though from a nostalgia aspect. I found with all Ghouls and Ghosts games, and this is just me, when you restrict my speed to such a point and throw so many mobs at me, I start to be like, okay, this is being it's hard for the sake of just trying to just be hard.
It's like it's trolling
I don't
you.
know. Yeah, it just I love the game. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I actually beat all the Ghouls and Ghosts games.
Yeah.
I can totally understand why you did it as an S tier for yourself. I think when it comes to the console itself, the Super Nintendo, I think that it's definitely in. I would consider it a B, to be honest. Me
Oh,
personally, but that's just my
God,
choice.
no.
And the reason I do is because if I think about how many platformers are actually on the system and how fluid they are, how the music is, I even find the music of Ghouls and Ghosts games kind of corny. This is going to be our most divisive title, I
Oh,
think.
man.
I mean, actually, the NES one, I remember those little things that look like burritos and they keep flying over your head and they're spawning like super crazy
Yeah.
and they're just everywhere. And it's one of those games that I got to be honest, I feel like it gets better when you accomplish it. Like when you finish that game, you actually feel like
Oh,
an
yeah.
absolute Giga Chad, right? It's like one of those moments. You remember where you were when you finished that game.
Oh, yeah.
It's that like difficult. So from a gameplay aspect, do I think that from a control scheme and fluid aspect, it's a great game? No. I actually think it's abysmal. But from a memory making standpoint and just the technological feats that game actually achieved, I agree with you. Capcom made that with love
Yeah.
for the actual series. And I believe it is better than the Genesis one. It is better than the NES one.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think it's been topped. I think that the remaster of that game that came out a few years ago
Yeah.
is not as good as the Super Nintendo version. So you know what? I think I'd give it a B, but I understand why you gave it an S because it's one of your favorite games.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely, it's up there. And it's just one of those games where I replayed the hell out of it. So it's just definitely, I'd be lying to myself when I look at my own list. Now, ranking it amongst our top 20, where would you say? Would you still say you would say B?
Top 20, I'd give it a C.
You give it a C? Oof. Let's see.
I put it right around Demon's Crest, to be honest. They're similar games in a way. But that's
Yeah.
not my choice.
No,
It's
I
your
get
choice.
it. Because I was.
You know what? You love it. Give it a B, man. Give it a B.
Well, I was
Let it
gonna
roll.
go B. Well, I was gonna give it a B myself, and I was just kind of like, I was like, okay, well, yeah, if you're good with B, I'm good with B, because that's where I was gonna say was a B, just because like there are other games that in my mind I'm like, yeah, I mean, like looking at the grand scheme of things, I know how many slots we got left for
Yeah,
A and S.
we got rough slots, man. It's
Yeah.
gonna be crazy.
So,
Whew.
yeah. All right, so now going back to your
Nice
list.
choice. Nice discussion, man.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good one.
So what do we got next on yours? Your B, your first B.
My first. Oh God. My first B is going to be. Oh shit, man! I got too many good games on it. I should really thought this out. My first B is going to be Yoshi's Island because
Yoshi's
I was
Island.
arguing that could have been potentially an A. So
Okay.
Yoshi's Island, from a graphical standpoint, is a masterpiece. It did things with the Super Nintendo that shouldn't have been possible.
Yeah.
It used the FX2 coprocessor to achieve some amazing three-dimensional feats, advanced scaling and rotation methods. Um, it really is a huge game. If you try to 100% that game, it could take you months, depending on your actual skill level. I remember when that game came out, I got it for Christmas, and I just was blown away immediately when all of a sudden I was hit with such vibrancy, such colors. Like the animation was just incredible. The amount of parallax scrolling layers was just crazy. Like not only was the foreground super detailed, but like there's butterflies on the foreground that actually moved. They had animations. So not only did you have all these layers, it was like fully detailed immersive world. The only thing that puts it down, in my opinion, is Mario's scream. His scream is annoying as
Oh
hell.
yeah, the crying baby.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
If that didn't exist in that game, which by the way, there is a ROM hack that removes that one thing
Yeah.
that makes the game even better,
There you
it
go.
would be an S tier. It would be actually an S tier. It's that annoying when you play the game. The boss battles are incredible. The amount of secrets in the game are incredible. Absolute masterpiece. And yeah, if you didn't play that game through to completion, you definitely must, for sure.
Now, I didn't 100% the game, but I did play all the levels all the way through when I was younger. But I'll agree. My first impressions of it, of course, I was a little irritated. I was that kid. I was like, why is Mario a baby? This makes no sense, and blah, blah,
I
blah,
know.
blah, blah. But then once I got over that and was like, okay, well, let me just play the game out. It was a really good game. And like you said, like I love the graphics on it. I thought that was really, really good. And like you said, there were certain spots when you could tell they pushed it with some of the 3D type layers and stuff. And there was stuff that I'm going, how, like you said, how are they doing this with the SNES? And I can't argue that. And it was a really good game, and one that I have to go back and play it all the way through because I haven't played it all the way through. God, it was probably high school. If it wasn't high school,
Yeah.
I might have been maybe like 20. So, I mean, it's been a long time. So, yeah, I mean, great game. And again, like you said, if no one's played that one, I'd say definitely got to check that one out for sure. And where?
So even crazier is the fact that if you 100% every level in a world, you get 2 bonus levels. So
Oh man,
you get
so
2 bonus super levels. Like it's insane.
so that
Kinda
means
like,
I definitely didn't play through everything. I just played. I guess you could say played through the main levels. I guess you could say then, because I
Yeah, you're
didn't.
talking, but I think it's another 14 levels total.
That's a lot. So for our top 20, where would you stick Yoshi's Island?
I think B,
B.
honestly. Yeah, I think B. I don't think it deserves to be up there with A or the S tier. I'm being very careful with that S tier. I think that really needs
Yeah, I'm
to
good
have.
with that. And
We're
having,
gonna have an interesting thing happen. We're gonna have
I know.
situations where our individual lists are gonna be lower than our actual combined list,
Oh yeah.
but
Oh
that's
yeah.
just gotta happen. So
Yep. Oh no, I totally get that. Um,
what's next for you, man?
let's see here. Just was going off of the chat. They've got Ghouls and Ghosts at B. So now going back to me. Oh, let's see here. My S tier is going to be Super Mario RPG. And
S tier?
yeah, that's gonna be my
Oh, God love you.
for my
I
S
really
tier.
agree.
I was gonna say for my S tier, yes. And I was gonna say I know that there's probably people that are gonna like want to take me outside and flog me, but I'm telling you, like for me, now granted, I as a kid there wasn't a whole lot of RPGs that I was actually able to play all the way through at this point in time. I want to say Secret of Mana, Mystic Quest, the original Final Fantasy, this game. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I know that those ones just right off the top of my head. You know, I played those ones, but Mario RPG, I loved to this day. The aesthetics were so freaking nice, and sadly, it didn't do as well as maybe as what it could have done had it been released earlier. Because if memory serves me right, didn't this get released like during the either right towards the beginning of the N64 era?
1996, I'll remember it as clear as day. I got it for my birthday, which was in August. So it was right around August that it released.
Okay. So it would have been right around that time. So nonetheless, though, it was at the end of the cycle of the SNES.
Yep.
But I remember a buddy of mine, he rented it. And again, because I was a stubborn kid, at first I was like, this sucks. This isn't like Mario and blah, blah. But I had to sit there and tell myself, but it's an RPG, so give it a shot. And then after I, again, sat down, I was like, all right, I'm going to try to learn everything. And then I'm going to go through. I found myself like sucked into it. And then the next thing I knew, I played it for almost like 2 hours without even thinking about it. And it's such a well put together game. And for a Mario game, they didn't even have to try to make a good story for it, but they actually did put some thought into the story. And I thought that in of itself was a feat that, again, they didn't have to, but I liked the story that went along with it and how they introduced the characters into your party. Nothing felt really forced or anything like that. It just kind of felt like everything organically happened the way it was supposed to. And to to this day, I'll never forget. It took me forever. I don't know about you, but for me, it took me forever to get through the forest trying to follow Gino, and like that whole little maze spot.
I know the area.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like that spot took me forever to get through because I didn't. It's not that it was easy. It just, or that it was. I don't want to say it was easy. Just to like, well, just follow where he goes. But like, there was a particular pattern in which you had to do it, and if you took one wrong turn, it was like you had to do it all over again. And then it took me a bit to figure out what the pattern was. That and the 3D maze when you're in the pirate ship and you can't see anything. You have to. Oh my god, that was just like pulling teeth trying to do. But it was so satisfying when you finally got done with it. But Super Mario RPG again, that's another one, a game that I try to play, even if it's just for a little bit, intermittently. I got me this here Superboy right here. I used to always have Super Mario RPG in that, just that way, like I would just have it when I was just wanting to play it for a little bit. But
should I get my Superboy too?
yeah.
I got one as well.
Yeah,
I love it.
They're so good, man.
And then, you know what's funny? I played Super Mario RPG as well in it, and
It's so good.
Anyways, I'll let you finish up.
No, you're good. But yeah, I mean, I'll just end with just in a nutshell. There's a bit of nostalgia there, but the game itself does offer, to me, from an RPG standpoint, I think it has a lot of replayability to it as far as like it doesn't necessarily make you feel like just because you beat it, you don't want to go back and like do it again. Whereas there's been other RPGs that I've played that, as good of games as they were, I'm okay like one and doneing them. Like, for instance, I love Legend of Legaia, but it's such a long game that once I get the retro achievements for it, I'll probably never play it again because I played through it when I was a kid. I liked it, but it's such a long game that obviously now being a fully functioning adult, I don't have, the 60 plus hours to put into games anymore and stuff like that. So once I get to a certain spot with that game, I'm going to shelf it. But a game like Mario RPG, for me, it's not too long, but it's long enough, but it doesn't make me feel like I have to completely just put a boatload of time into it anymore. So what's your thoughts on it?
Oh man, I'm glad you picked S tier for that. I actually wanted to have that as part of my list, and I was really mad that I had to take it out of my list. Super Mario RPG is one of those games that is one of the best of all time. There's a reason they actually took the time to remaster this thing. I can't even explain to you how excited I was when the announcement came out that this game was being remastered for the Switch. And not only was it remastered, they respected the original, they added content to the game, and they made an excellent game even better. I think when I say Super Mario RPG is a slapstick comedy mixed with an RPG, I mean it. It's got the best of the silent era, like Charlie Chaplin kind of stuff built into the game, where Mario can't really speak, but
Yeah.
he acts out everything he's
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to say. They didn't have to do these things, but they
Yeah.
did. Even when this game came out and Super Mario 64 was out, I used to say back then, and I still say it today, the Super Mario Super Mario RPG looked better than Super Mario 64, and it's aged a million times better.
It
If
has
you don't
aged
even
really well.
consider the fact it has a remaster, it stands alone as one of the greatest RPGs of all time because it took such an iconic IP,
Yeah.
made it into an RPG when Squaresoft was really at its best, and introduced one of my favorite characters of all time, which is Geno, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call him. Excellent character, excellent game, S tier all over the place. Love it. Love the remaster. If you haven't played the remaster, you definitely need to check it out. And I fully agree, 100%.
Say, I'm probably mispronouncing it. Probably is Geno. I just always said Geno because Geno would be G
I
or
say Geno
G-I.
and Geno, depending on
Yeah.
the mood. Yep.
So for top 20, would you say S tier as well?
That's got to go S tier.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it does.
Good.
Yeah. Just for
I'm
what
right
it actually, it was like the magnum opus of Squaresoft and Nintendo's relationship back in the day before Squaresoft ditched them and went to PlayStation.
All right. So what do we got next for your next B? I should say your second and last B tier game.
What do I got left? My God, the fact that I'm not going to have Donkey Kong Country up there is criminal. Mega Man X.
Mega Man X. I thought
Mega
so
Man
based
X.
off of our conversation previously when we were talking about Zelda. I was like, it's got to be Mega Man X.
Yeah, Mega Man X is the perfect Mega Man game. When this came out, you got to remember, we're comparing this game to the NES titles, the 8-bit era, where the music was great and the graphics were okay. And, you know, we always loved Mega Man, but X made it edgy and cool, which was completely early 90s. All of a sudden, it's funny how this came about. A friend of mine came to my community. I grew up in a really small community and told me this game existed because I didn't have the internet. I didn't have any way to know it existed, and said, you know, Mega Man X is incredible. You need to play this game. It's awesome. So I actually went out a month later and bought it. And when I bought it, I brought it back home. I popped that sucker in. I was super excited. I was staring at the box art, and I get slapped with this heavy metal,
Oh, man.
super amazing soundtrack.
Yeah.
And you're just running through and blowing the shit out of everything.
Yes.
And then Vile in his mechanized armor
Yeah.
sitting there and laughing at you like you're so weak and pathetic. And
Yeah.
then they introduce one of the coolest characters ever
Yeah.
with Zero.
Yeah.
Zero comes along, blows the arm off the
Yeah.
neck, and makes you feel like you're an idiot and just a
Like,
weakling.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you're like, I'm going to prove him wrong, man. I'm going to prove him wrong. And you go through the game, and you're just like, you get to that point, and, you know, he sacrifices himself for you, and he dies, and you're just
Yeah.
on this warpath to kill Sigma.
Yeah.
Masterpiece through and through.
Oh, it was so
There's
good.
nothing I would change in that game.
No,
It's just
no.
great.
It was very well put together. And it's funny that you said something about Zero. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one because I'll be dropping it next week because I got some stuff I'm trying to finish up editing. But I was doing a 30th anniversary of PlayStation, right? Video. And I talk about Mega Man X4 on there. And it's funny that you said about Zero because that's what I talked about. I said, because Mega Man X4 was the first game that you got to play as you could play as Zero or X. And I talked about how like my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, finally I get to play as Zero because when I first seen him on Mega Man X, I went, who the hell is this guy? That's who I want to play. I'm like, screw playing as Mega Man. This guy's awesome. And, you know, being able to play as him on Mega Man X4, man, oh my God. As a kid,
Yeah, dream come true.
Oh yeah. I was so there for it, and it was just like you said, it was like, yeah, the childhood dream came true. I was like, they actually did it. I can't believe it. It was so good. But yeah, Mega Man X, man. Yeah, I can remember when I first played it, It was probably, it must have been like shortly after it was released because it was released in '93, correct? Does that sound right?
Yeah, 93.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I remember I was, again, 7 years old. I was just got back home from my baseball team's parade because they had to do one of those lovely parades and throw out candy and stuff. And neighborhood kid across the street rented it, and I walked over there. When I walked in, he's playing, and like you said, I hear the music. I'm hearing the music before I seen the game because how his living room was
Yeah.
laid out. When you walked in, you couldn't see the TV, but I could hear it. And I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then I looked, and then I see it on top, and I'm going, "Oh, this is so good!" And I just was
Yeah, it is.
instantly hooked. So good. But
Yeah, it still gives me chills to this day playing that game. And every time I play it, it's just like, oh man, it's so 90s, man. You can't.
it
If
is.
I were to explain the 90s
Oh
and
yeah.
gaming in one sentence, it's literally just Mega Man X.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So, where are we going to put this on our lovely top 20? It can't go lower than B. I feel like it can't go lower
I
than
feel like
B.
it is a B. Yeah. And while it is a masterpiece in
Yeah.
its own right, it's just not going to compete with some of the top titles.
Oh my gosh. And I'm looking at the rest of this list. I'm going,
Hey, we got to fit them in somewhere, right?
Good.
It's going to be terrible.
God, this is rough.
Yeah, because they're all the pinnacle of their respective, lanes, right? How
Yeah.
do you compare,
Oh yeah.
like perfection to perfection?
Oh yeah. It's tough. That's why I like doing this because it's just tough to try to compare the games amongst themselves, and you'll get something different almost every time because you're going to be finding justifications for trying to meddle with certain stuff, but trying to just do it on the fly. That's why I like doing it like that, because it's just trying to do it right out of the gate. See,
Put me on the spot for sure. So you make your pick. I'm going to run it for just 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
not a problem.
Make your pick, and I'll be able to obviously pick up right where I left off.
Oh, yeah,
So
you'll
don't
be
worry about
good.
it. Right back.
All right, so my next pick. Oh, this is tough. I'm going to go. Oh, my gosh. I'm going to go Contra 3, The Alien Wars at. Oh, man. I'm going between D and C, but. Because there's another game I'm looking at that's left, and I'm going, do I think it's better than this one or no? I'm going to have to go. Yeah. I'll go D. I'll go D. Now, for those that don't know how we're doing this, we get 2 picks per tier. It's not saying that we think like the games that we put in D or C are the actual D or C ranks, just how we would rank them amongst their peers. And then our top 20 here. Excuse me. And again, I apologize for being so congested. I'm just a bit under the weather, but same thing goes for our top 20. It's just the 20 games that are going against themselves on where we would rank them. Not saying that we would put stuff in D, but that'd be it. So, Contra 3, the only reason I put it in D is just because I can't put it ahead of the other games that are left. But I thought it was a great game. Graphics were really good. I loved the action involved with it. I liked the way that the top-down levels worked when you got to use the left and right bumpers to turn the map and stuff. I thought was really cool. And it was, for a Contra game, I'm not going to say it was like, I mean, it was hard at first. Like, I think any Contra game, obviously, when you go in blind, it's going to be challenging because there's going to be stuff popping out and you're not expecting stuff to be popping out when they do. But once you figure out where stuff is, it's not too terribly hard to beat. But it is one, though, like, I know I have issues because I haven't played through it in such a long time that I know I've forgotten certain patterns and stuff, but I know I could probably get through at least half of the game before I probably get a game over. But I thought they did well with the presentation, but I just can't put it above the other 4 games that I have left. So just for those reasons is why I got it in D.
Are you done?
Yeah. So what do you say?
Ah, man, that's a title that I have a lot of love for, but I totally get it. I think that if we're going to put True Lies down there, I think putting that there, it makes sense considering what we still have on the list.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my problem that really, while it's one of the best Contra games ever made, the problem is the Mode 7 levels really set it back. If you play the Mode 7 levels and it splits the screen in half on 2-player, it's actually a nightmare. It's a huge design flaw. I think they just tried to make something kind of neat and cool. I feel
Yeah.
like that lets the game down. Otherwise, it's one of the best bro shooters ever made. But that definitely sets it back. I would argue that Contra Hardcore is a better game for the Genesis than the Alien Wars on the Super Nintendo
Ooh,
because
I
those
don't
Mode
know.
7 levels.
I mean, I don't know.
So yeah, I agree with you.
I do like hardcore though. That one's tough too, but I don't know. I would say like out of hardcore, Contra 3 and then the original 2. I mean, I would say Contra. I'd still probably say Contra 3 is the best one. I think.
Have you played it on 2 players much?
No, a lot of these games I honestly play just by myself. Most people.
Because on 1 player, I would say that
Yeah.
it is the best. It's when you put it on 2 player,
Is when
I
it
think it
sucks.
falters. Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird. And I play, obviously, one of the emphasis on my channel is cooperative gaming.
Yeah.
And we just played that on the Game Genie series not too long ago. Me and my buddy SS Davin, we both went through the game together. And when you hit those Mode 7 levels, they're actually horrible. They're actually so badly designed. It's actually shocking. Because you take that rotation, you split that screen, man. It's terrible. Now they do have a mode in it that allows you to be on the same screen so that when you rotate, one person rotates the screen and you're both walking on the same screen, but then you get trapped.
Oh man. Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I didn't even really realize how bad it was till we went back to it. But as a solo player, I would 100% agree that it's one of the better games and definitely probably the best. Yeah, I would say it's the best Contra. But Hardcore it's better because it doesn't have the Mode 7 levels for 2-player.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, I get that because it's functionality. So no, I totally get it. So where would you want to put it on our top 20?
Contra 3. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Because I know what's coming. I'll say a C.
You're gonna go
I'll give it a
C.
C.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'll say C, definitely.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I hope.
Yeah.
All right.
No matter what, it's gonna hurt.
I
no matter
know,
what we're
I
saying
know.
with these games.
Because there's gonna be stuff that's in the wrong tier, and you're gonna be just going, "This doesn't even seem right."
Yeah,
It's all
I could go
wrong.
back to this, tomorrow and rearrange these games again.
Oh yeah,
You know.
it happens every time. Because
Yeah.
everybody that I've had on so far, they're like, "Oh, well, this will be good." I was like, "Just wait till the end." Then you're gonna be wanting to go, "No, this isn't right."
No, it's not right in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I said, I would put most of these. All my picks would be S or A. Every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just reality. I kind of screwed myself by picking great games. All right.
Well, that's why I tried for myself. Like usually, I would try to put, like I said, a couple games. Not saying that they're bad games, just that they would. I guess you could say I would know I'd be putting them in a C or a D spot. So that way I know, like, okay, these ones I'm sure I'm going to be putting in a C or a D spot. So then that frees up the rest of them. Whereas the list I made this time for myself, and I know you did the same thing. I just put all games. I'm like, these are all games I love, and this is going to be painful, but here we are.
They have to be on the list,
Yeah.
right? You can't omit some of these games, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what do we got next for your first C rank?
Donkey Kong Country.
Ooh, yeah,
So Donkey
great
Kong
game.
Country is one of my favorite platformers of all time. Super atmospheric. I mean, aquatic ambiance is still one of the best games ever made in a video game. Let's face it, it just is. Then you got the snow barrel blast level,
Yeah.
super atmospheric. You're
Oh,
going
yeah.
through it, all of a sudden starts snowing more.
Yeah.
I mean, so one of my favorite games for the NES was actually Adventure Island 2 because it had the pet system where you could get on the dinosaurs, pterodactyls, and all these dinosaurs and stuff. And
Yeah.
you had the islands. I always said this, and I don't know if it's actually true, but I always said that Donkey Kong Country to me felt like the spiritual successor to Adventure Island 2 for the NES. And the reason I say that is because it's got islands, it's got pets, it's got a lot of fruit in it, right? It's
Yeah.
like very much set in this jungle tropical atmosphere. And then you take the 3D pre-rendered sprite graphics, you put that on top of it. It's a beautiful game. It's 2 players, yes, it's tag team.
Yeah.
You got to tag each other, or you can do the, you know, um, I think it's called, I think it's just called 2-player mode where you take turns.
Yeah.
But it's a really great game. The only thing that lets it down at all, I think, is the hit detection's a little weird on it sometimes. And when you're on ledges, sometimes you don't quite connect
Yeah.
with the sprite and you kind of fall down through.
Yep.
Great game. But yeah, I would consider it a C tier compared to the list we have here.
So
for
where
sure.
where would you want it on our top 20?
C tier. I knowing what's coming. Yeah, C tier's fair, I think.
Yeah,
in
I'm
my
good with
opinion.
that. But I'm the same way as you. Like this game, oh my god, this is another one. I can play the crap out of it,
Yep.
and
Same.
I know a lot of people are gonna dunk on me for this, but it's my favorite one out of the three. I liked Diddy Kong's Quest. I really did. I liked it a lot. I just found myself just the way that the presentation was and the levels were on the original Donkey Kong Country. I love playing through them. It's just I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know why. I mean, you could say part of it might be the subliminal nostalgia with it because I can remember, excuse me, I can remember playing it at Toys R Us when they used to have the kiosks with the TVs where you had to break your necks to look up at to play, and that's where I played Donkey Kong Country for the first time, and then a buddy of mine, he ended up getting it, and then played it over there, and we grinded that game out until we finally beat it, and the graphics for the time for a 2D game, again, how they did the graphics for an SNES game, I thought was just mind blowing for the time, and people got to remember we weren't at the 3D era yet, so this was like getting towards it. So going from the paper 2D to seeing actual pixelated textures on stuff, it was just such a huge deal back then, and I can remember just how much it definitely blew my mind. And like you said, the aquatic ambient song, it's something that you could just put as background music and just let it sit.
Yeah.
It's just so
It
good.
transports you to being a child again.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So good.
And I agree with you. It is my favorite of the three as well. I like 2. I like 3. I consider 3 the weakest.
Yep.
But 1 is a completely just nostalgia fueled super ride that I love. I love it, man. I do. Yeah.
Same here. That's where I'm at. I'm like, yeah. So now the chat, they're kind of getting to a wonky spot. So I don't know if you've been keeping up or not with me, but I've been flipping through. So their A and B tiers are all the way done. So right now they got split. Got 2 votes for DK Country, 1 for S and 1 for C. So all they have left is 2 C slots, 2 S slots, and then 4 D slots. So, seeing as we can't take an average of S and C, I need one more person, just one person, please vote on the game. But I would say I'll probably take, if nobody else does, I'd probably put it in C for them, be the tiebreaker. Just because I'm sure some of the games that are left, I would think they might make S rank, but I could be wrong. But
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, it's S rank is. I'm almost afraid to touch it.
yeah.
You know.
So
God.
the next game on my list, I just want to get through here. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. I'm gonna put that at B. That game, oh man, kind of similar to like what you said about Mega Man X is how I felt about this game the first time I played it. Fired it up and on the title screen, how the music just fucking kicks in and it's just like, what is going on here? And then the way like the first, I'll never forget the first level I played was Gambit's level, and it just had that smooth music, like it just sounded like because how Gambit's character was, it just sounded like something that would be for his level. And then the way that it controlled, at least for me, even though it was just 2D beat 'em up, just back and forth, not like how Streets of Rage was, I still enjoyed it. The way the sounds were, the visuals were. The only thing that I would say that took away from it was how to go about using the special abilities, which I know they were trying to do like kind of the hybrid, like putting Street Fighter type stuff into the special moves. Like if you were to look up the move sets and stuff, you would see a lot of similarities in that regard as far as Street Fighter and X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. So outside of that, though, I thought it was really cool how like they just did everything. How like the first section was each character had their own individual level, and then you got to the point where it was just like the next level. I believe was the Brood level. You could pick any of them; it didn't matter. But and most of the levels, it wasn't each one had their own individual level. But uh, I think there was only maybe one other spot after that that they all had their individual level, and I'm just blanking. But Apocalypse to me was extremely hard to beat until obviously you figure out the pattern like anything else, and once you get there, it's not quite as daunting, but it's still a little
Yeah.
bit of a pain in the ass if you of course mistime certain uh, evasions and stuff like that. But again, replayability factor, this is another game I can fire up and just play it whenever and absolutely love it. What say you?
Man, it's one of those games. I gotta be honest. I haven't played it obviously as much as you have, and um, it's one that I enjoyed. But I found myself playing the Sega Genesis title at the time, X-Men 2, so much back in the day. I preferred that version. Um, I could see where you kind of put it. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't have enough experience to really go into it to say that it's better than anything else. I would consider it a mid-level game on the SNES compared
Yeah.
to some of the higher end ones. But I could see why you would like it, and I do still think that the X-Men 2 title, actually I have it over here, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the Clone Wars, I think it's called. This one. I had to go get it. This guy right here.
There you go.
I don't know if
Yeah,
you
I
see it.
actually never got to play X-Men 2.
This is a masterpiece, by the way. If you've never played it, and it's hard. And if you like Mutant Apocalypse,
Yeah.
please play this game and let me know what you think.
Okay.
It's a masterpiece. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think you need to decide where that goes on
Oh boy.
the top 20.
Oh man.
I'm not qualified.
Only. Oh man. Just trying to think. I'm just gonna go D. I think.
D.
I'm gonna go D.
Yeah, I agree with that. I
Yeah.
think so.
I'm just looking at everything. I'm going. Yeah.
What we got left, man.
Yeah.
Even it's
Yep.
gonna be terrible.
I know. All right. So getting back to yours. So we got your next C.
My next C, I'm seeing what I have. Okay, so I gotta see you switch over. Okay. My God, what do I have left?
Terra
Okay.
Enigma, Super Mario Kart, and Super Castlevania.
Oh, damn, man, they're all masterpieces. Oh, dude, we're gonna get destroyed here. I gotta go Super Mario Kart or Mario Kart. It set the trend for what a racing game could be. Its use of Mode 7 graphics were just incredible back in the day. I remember when I was the first one in my community. Once again, you're going to think I was spoiled. But I was the first one in my community to get this. And we would have tournaments in my basement. And they were legendary friggin' tournaments. We would sit there for hours and hours and hours. And we had it all mapped out. And it always came down to me and this other guy at the end. And we would do like, we do Special Cup 150cc in order to finish it off, right? And it was only me and him that could actually beat 150cc Special Cup ever. So it was like always us. It was incredible. I love the game. The use of battle mode too. The battle mode was actually incredible. There's only one other game that I enjoyed its battle mode as much as Super Mario Kart, and that's Metal Warriors. If you've never played it,
Yeah, I have.
yeah, it's a split screen deathmatch solid game with mechs and super big robots. Awesome game. I love it. It's still one that I play today. With emulators now, you can actually increase the resolution of Mode 7 graphics and make it super HD, which looks fantastic. And yeah, it's a fantastic game. And I think it's appropriately placed considering it's right next to Donkey Kong Country.
All right. So where are we going to put this on our top 20?
For its importance, let's get to our top 20 there again.
Yep. So we got 2 slots
I
for
believe
S, 1
it
for
should
A.
be right next to Donkey Kong Country again, maybe.
For C.
I'm looking here. Hold on, what I got left? Yeah, you know what? No, I think it should be an A.
A.
It should be an A. Yeah.
I'm good with that. I agree. Because I was actually shocked. I was like, see? I was about to go, are you sure?
Yeah, no, I'm looking at what I got left, and I'm just trying to. I mean, I don't know.
So
Sorry.
no, you're
It's gonna be
good.
hard.
It is. So Mario Kart for me, this was one that again played it at Toys R Us for the first time, and I was completely blown away by it. The first level that I played actually was the I want to say it was Bowser Keep level with the lava.
Yep. Yep.
And just the way that that was presented. Again, you got to remember, 64 wasn't out at this point in time. This was when Mario Kart was being released. So when I seen it, I just was just blown away by it. Now, granted, yes, I did play F-Zero. However, just the way, again, just the way everything was and using the weapons the way they did and just the overall flow of it, it was really a good game. And I'm sure most people, I mean, I've caught myself like saying it hasn't really aged well in comparison to obviously 64, I think was just bar none, in my opinion, like my favorite one even to this day. Like I just love Mario Kart 64. But still, even in 2D fashion, I still think it's not a bad game. And it definitely, I felt it definitely raised the bars what they were trying to do with the genre.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. We're playing stuff like Top Gear back in the day, and you look back at Top Gear now, and some people like, yeah, Top Gear looks better than Super Mario Kart.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Not even close.
No,
I mean, the fact that
I
you have
agree with
all
that.
that flexibility, and not even that, you think about the sprite work that had to be done
Yeah.
to make that illusion work. It's nuts, right?
Yep.
It's crazy. Absolute masterpiece for the console, and it actually had special instructions chip that makes it a little harder to emulate. So if you got a cheap multi-cart, you can't just pop that ROM on there and play it. It
Really?
won't work. Yep. Yep. It's got its own instruction set, its own chip.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of a lot of them do on this list, but that one in particular, you would think, oh, it's just Mode 7. It's like, no, it had its own thing. We got S, C, or D on this one.
Yeah. Okay. So, so just going back real quick to the chat, you guys got one more slot for C, 3 for D, and then 2 for S. And going back to, excuse me, for me, I'm going to put, now this one I'm sure people are going to give me a lot of crap for, but based off of our previous conversation, it's probably not going to be a surprise to you, but I'm putting Super Smash TV at A, and I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, I'd probably put Earthworm Jim above that," which I get it. Earthworm Jim's a great game. I'm not gonna argue that. This is a personal thing. That's all. It's just personal preference. And when I put it between when I look at Smash TV, Earthworm Jim, Sunset Riders, if I had to say which one out of those three, if I had to pick one to play, excuse me, if I had to pick one to play for the rest of my life, it's going to be Smash TV every time. But that game I thought was well put together, very hard. Technically, it's actually pretty short, but it does provide a great challenge, and I just love it to death. Not really much more I want to elaborate on with it other than just I love it. I love the obviously they got inspiration from the Running Man, but I love that aspect of it because that movie, if you haven't watched it, fantastic, at least in my opinion. But I'm an Arnold guy, so you know.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah.
So most I won't say everything, but most things that he touches, I'm gonna be like, I love it. It's Arnold. But yeah, Smash TV, fantastic game. If you haven't played it, I will say we touched on it earlier. Is I would say play it on the Super Nintendo versus the Genesis. That's my opinion, and this is coming from a Genesis guy, so I should tell you. But yeah, that's all I got on that. Anything
Yeah.
you want to
So
add to that?
yeah, I definitely do. I think it's a great game. I think it's just like one of the perfect two-player games to get together with one of your buddies and play through something. It's definitely inspired by The Running Man, which yes is a great cheesy movie. It's
Yes,
actually being remade without Arnold, which is
I heard
freaking
about that.
stupid.
I know. I'm worried about
But
what they're gonna do.
yeah, so, I mean, I think about Smash TV on the NES, and that was a really unique game because I don't know if people even know that much about this today, but you could take two NES controllers and put it in dual stick mode, and you could like I had a buddy of mine who duct taped both sides of the controller into like this big square, and you could play it two controllers at the same time.
I did not
So it
know
was
that.
really, yeah, it was a twin stick shooter back in the day, which, it really took the arcade and brought it to your house, right?
Yeah,
And Super Smash TV really did improve on everything about it, just like everything else seemed to for the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo did so many remasters. One of the titles that I have on the list, my list, will come up a little later, but it's technically another remaster of a Super Nintendo game, or sorry, a Nintendo game. It's just crazy. But yeah, great game. I totally understand why you did it. I can definitely see what type of games you like now,
yeah.
and based off of that, I think you put it in the right place. So, bravo.
So where would you say this should lie on the top 20? Obviously it's not gonna be S.
Now it's gonna be D,
D.
I think. Yeah, I can't put it above some of this stuff. It's
Mm,
great, but
I'm
mechanically,
okay
it's
with
a
that.
lot like the NES version. Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
great game though.
Oh, it is.
Really fun. Sometimes a D tier item is just as fun as a S tier, right? So okay, I got two left, eh?
Yep, got two left for your D's. Which one do you want to talk about
Well,
first?
well, we're gonna talk about Super Castlevania 4.
Alrighty.
Super Castlevania 4 has probably the most atmospheric soundtrack ever put into a game. It shouldn't even exist. The mastery of the 16-bit sample-based sound chipset is nuts. You can listen to that entire soundtrack, and every single level will immerse you in its gothic horror. To me, there's no better game for Halloween. It is my favorite Halloween game of all time. It's one of my favorite games ever made, and I could play through that endlessly, and I have on the channel. It's one of those things that if I'm just looking to play something for an hour, 20 minutes, I will fire up that game or Mega Man X every single time.
Yeah.
It's so good, so complete. The 8-directional whip,
Yeah.
which has never been reproduced, using it as a tool to like traverse obstacles,
Yep.
and the use of mode 7 and everything else in that game. What a game! What an early title for the Super Nintendo to really show its power.
Yeah, it
Great
blew
game.
my mind. Like you said, the whip. I brought that up to a buddy of mine. I said, when I first played that and seeing how you could use the whip, I thought that was just wild. I couldn't believe they actually used it the way they did. Like how like you said, using it as like a tool to use it to traverse around
Yeah.
the worlds and stuff. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, Super Metroid actually took some elements of that whip in order to use its grapple beam,
Oh,
which is
really?
kind of nuts. It's got the same type of it's the exact same thing. It uses its grapple beam to hook onto blocks and enemies, and it's 8 directional. It's the same thing, which is kind of nuts.
So where do you want to put this on our top 20?
So many I want to move now. On our top 20, I'm looking at top 20. I would put it at C, I think.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm good
I
with
think
that.
it's got to be a C. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's a masterpiece game. It's definitely not a D, and it's not an S tier. But one of my shocking ones that's going to come up for the S tier is going to be yeah.
All right, so Castlevania 4 for the chat. You guys got 2 slots, or 2 tiers rather, left.
We got only a couple people watching. I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't know how valid the vote will be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's all right. We'll just
It's
throw it
all
out there
right,
anyways.
yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Why not? There we go. And go. Okay. So, excuse me. Probably tired of hearing me choke on myself over here.
Oh man, I love it. It's
Um,
glorious.
yes. I'm gonna go.
ASMR, man.
Yeah. ASMR. Hear me choke on my fluids.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Jim is gonna be B tier, and it's a great game. Difficult platformer, especially if you've never played it. The SNES, I want to say the SNES one. There's one less level in it, if I remember right, from the Genesis version. But still one that I think it's still tough. I mean, I could fight for it to at least be in the A tier. It's just, again, my personal preference is why it knocks it down to B. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, should I put UN Squadron at B? Nah, and then I just go back and forth. But I'm okay with it being at B, though. It's a great game. They did a lot of good layering in that game as well. I felt from a graphical standpoint, I thought it was really well put together, and just a lot of the cartoony stuff that they implemented into it. It was just so good, and just some of the over the top cheese ball stuff that they threw in there, it just adds to it. But yeah, that's all I got for Jim. What do you got?
Yeah, so Earthworm Jim, obviously, it looks like an animated cartoon. Had a mix of that slapstick comedy that is just so lacking during that era. It was just so great. A great, a really just well-rounded game. Every single level felt like its own experience. You never knew what was coming. The music is actually fantastic.
It
It's
is.
such a good vibe.
Mm.
I had actually quite a few versions of this game throughout the years. The Super Nintendo version, yes, has one less level. Music is better on that version, in my opinion. The graphics are a little bit better on the Genesis version, which is kind of funny because the color palette is actually less on the Genesis. But the best version of that game that I ever played was actually on the Sega CD. Sega CD version is
Really?
a masterpiece if you haven't played it.
No, I haven't played the CD version.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It looks amazing, sounds amazing, and definitely the definitive version of the game. Super Nintendo version was the first version I ever had. In fact, actually, it's funny you mentioned that game because Dempsey, who was in here earlier, was actually one of the people I did a head-to-head with him the other day in Earthworm
Yeah.
Jim, and we had a great time. And when you were talking about the difficulty, if you've never played it before, haven't played it much, you couldn't make it too far in the game because it's actually pretty unforgiving if you don't know what
Oh,
you're
yeah.
at, right?
Yep.
Like it will kick your ass pretty fast because every time you get hit, you're losing,
10 health every single time.
Yep.
And if you get hit by spikes, I think it's 25%. So yeah, I think you're right on the money with that one.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the ones I wanted to add to the list. And just a really really well made game that showed off the graphical fidelity of these 16-bit consoles.
So I'm going to say for our top 20, this is going into S. We got one slot for D. This is just me speaking out loud here. If we got 3 games, the one game I haven't played yet, which is the Terra Enigma. But if I had to say Earthworm Jim or Sunset Riders, I would say Jim's going to go in S tier, correct?
I mean, God, putting it above Super Metroid is criminal too. Uh, oh no, I knew we were going to end up like this
Mistakes
at
were
the end.
made. It always happens.
I mean, I would say as an overall, I think it would be okay. So here's my argument.
Okay.
I would say it belongs in D, only because there's better platformers, there's better action games on this list. Sunset Riders is arguably one of the best 2 players games ever made.
It is really
any
good
console.
run and gun. I'm not gonna lie. It is a very good run and gun.
It's really good as a 2-player game. And if I think of what Earthworm Jim is as a solo game, is it better than Sunset Riders? I don't know. So I'm gonna let you make the call.
I'm good with that. I mean, I'm good with
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, does that put me up for Terra Enigma?
That puts you up for Terra Enigma. Yes, it does.
So Terra Enigma is the absolute best game that never released in North America. It's actually criminal that it never. It is by far one of the best action RPGs ever made, and it is better than A Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past by a long shot. Its use of Mode 7 graphics, its music, its atmosphere, its story, absolutely one of the best games for the Super Nintendo or the 16-bit era. It is between Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy III, and Super Mario RPG to me. That's where I would put it. It's that good. If you haven't played it, it's the best game that Enix put out for the Super Nintendo. And I can't say enough good things about it. The story is absolutely mind-blowing. The game is mind-blowing. The music's mind-blowing. The graphics are great. Combat is great. It's an absolute S-tier game. I mean, if you haven't played it, please do yourself a favor, pick up the game, play it any way you can, and you're going to be happy that you did.
Say that was one I'd never heard of, so now I know that that's one that, again, gotta add it to the list because I didn't even know it existed. So you learn something new every day.
Because it didn't release in North America for us, right?
Yeah.
I've got the cart over there. I'll just go grab it. It's here somewhere. Yep. Got all the games, man. I got all the games. All right, so this is the guy here, but this is obviously because we can't get it here in North America. It is actually a reproduction because it's not even a reproduction because it doesn't exist, right? You can't get this cart in this region. So this one was very well made. Paid extra to make sure it was really good. And yeah, it's definitely one of those games that if it had released properly here, I would have bought it day one for sure. It's so good. Yeah. Love it. S tier. Definitely check it out. Let me know when you do.
Yeah, I definitely will.
You actually within the first 30 minutes playing that game, you'll be hooked.
Yeah.
It's
that good. Yep. Oh man. All right. I'm gonna have to take your word for it. Especially you're dropping it on S tier, so I'm like, man, okay. I'll have to take a look at it. So obviously that leaves my last one was Sunset Riders. The only reason why I put it in C, I can see your argument. Maybe I should have put it in B instead of C, but I guess the only reason why I did that was just because in my mind I was just trying to think of I guess when I was just comparing the two games. But I get what you're saying. The co-op, I could see that being good. I say I can see it being good because I never played co-op. But when I first played this game, this was one of those games that obviously it was an arcade game first. But it definitely it played like an arcade game, even on the console. Like you felt like the way it was set up and just the speed of the game and everything. And
Felt
then,
like the perfect port, right?
oh, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
wish, I don't know why, but do you happen to know why the Genesis version was different from the SNES version? Like why the,
It was okay. So at the time, you may have noticed that Genesis and Nintendo had games of the same name that were all different. I think of Turtles in Time and then the Hyperstone
Hyperstone Heist?
Heist.
Yeah.
The reason they did that is because there's certain elements that Nintendo would not allow to be a certain percentage. Like if it was going to be released on another console, it had to be a
Yeah.
certain percentage different. And I believe that's the reason.
Okay.
So
Because that's what I
yeah,
found to be like disheartening. Because like I played the Genesis port first, and then I played the SNES version later on when I was like in high school on a emulator, and I preferred the SNES version, but it's a great game. It's like it's obviously literally the epitome of the Western cowboys and Indian stuff. So I mean, like that was cool the way that they presented it in a video game. It was just really really good, and like I said, like I love the Contra games too. Like even having the Alien Wars at D, even like when I'm looking at that now, I'm like maybe I shouldn't have had it at D. But it's just again,
yeah. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where
yeah,
10's really not enough.
yeah,
If we were to properly do this console, you would need at least 15 each.
yeah.
Because there's just too many great games.
There really
It's
is.
just impossible. And then when we get to the end here, obviously the list doesn't even look like we want it to look like.
Yeah,
And but the reality is we had to go from left to right, and that's how time works. So we end up here. So
yeah.
that's the way it is.
So looking at our tier list in full is let's see here.
It's
Where's it?
pretty fair. It's pretty fair. Like there's a lot there that you could move up or down a couple. But I mean, overall, I think that's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm like looking at trying to just
Could have been
think.
worse.
Oh man, I think like what I get hung up at, I guess I should have put. Now that I'm looking at it, I probably could have put as much as I love Ghouls and Ghosts. Like the fact that it's above Donkey Kong Country, just
I know.
that pains me
But
because like I really do love Donkey Kong Country. It's such a great game,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I wasn't thinking
I
about that
mean,
at the time, or else I would have dropped
I
it.
do think though. I do think that the weakest four are at the bottom. I do think. I think they are the weakest of all of these games. I think the weakest four are at the bottom,
Yeah, yeah, that I agree with. Yes.
and the top is the three in that top that are definitely amazing games, like perfection. Sunset Riders is also perfection for in its own right. It's a perfect arcade port,
Yeah.
and it's a perfect two-player game. And arguably, it plays a little better than Contra. Um, so maybe that's about right. Maybe
Yeah.
you know, I think the A tier is appropriate. I think the B tier. I think where we get it kind of mixed up here is between the B and the C tier.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about where I'm at. Yeah. It's the
Yeah,
B and
I
C
think we
tier.
could go like they could move up and down.
Yeah.
They'd almost have to be their own tier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get it. Yep. So the chat just to go
If you
over
had,
real
you know
quick.
what would have been perfect?
What's
If
that?
you had four tiers, and you did, and you had five in each tier, that would have made this work. I think.
Maybe I'll try doing that next time instead of doing
Yeah,
5 tiers, 4 apiece.
yeah,
Maybe that's what
yeah.
I'll do.
Maybe.
See how that works out. So the
Yeah, I
chat,
think so.
the way that
Gives you a
there's
little bit more flexibility.
yeah, the way that theirs ended up was they got Mario All Stars and Super Mario World at S, Mario RPG at S, Sunset Riders S, Terra Enigma S. Those two were by default because of the way they were voting. So the last two were by default. Chrono Trigger, Super Metroid, Legend of Zelda, and Contra 3 were all A tier. And then UN Squadron, Ghouls and Ghosts, Yoshi's Island, Mega Man X were B. Their C tier was True Lies, Demon's Crest, Donkey Kong Country, Mario Kart. Then the D one was X-Men, Smash TV, Castlevania, and Earthworm Jim. definitely all over the place. But
Oh yeah, man.
uh, yeah, some of those games I'm like, but of course I know typically it's hit or miss on how many people actually stick through these particular streams. So some of the stuff it ends up being by default it drops to something. So it is what it is for the chat. But I'm pretty good with what we got. Before we take off for the evening, is there anything you wanted to add as far as anything you got coming up on your channel or anything like that?
It's Christmas coming up, right? So I'll be doing a little bit more Christmas content. You saw I did that really shitty jank
Oh.
game, their PlayStation. Probably the worst performance stream I've ever had, but worth it because it was totally shit, and I really enjoyed that.
I felt
But
bad
no,
not coming
in
back because
2000,
I fell asleep that
yeah,
night.
yeah, 2025, I've got some big plans. A lot more collaborative videos, of course. I've been doing a lot of collaborative videos. We'll feature you, of course,
Oh yeah.
at least once. Have to get you on the Discord for sure. One of the big things I'm going to be doing is a lot more extremely high edited quality retrospective type stuff. One of the big ones I want to do is I want to do a full video of my top 50 retro games ever. And I'm not talking just make a list with like a number counting down. I'm talking extremely well done, well edited, well researched, a lot of B-roll, and potentially even interviews. And I'm going to be doing that for like my super mega video. Probably going to take like 6 months to make it.
I was gonna say that sounds
But
like a lot of work.
it's going to be a production, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be doing that. And N64 is going to be a big one for me this year, because the N64 is something I feel like I didn't dive into enough. So I've got an N64 now all set up. I've also got the analog 3D that's coming as well. So I'll be playing a lot of N64 this year. I've never played through Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask ever in my life. So that should tell you kind of where I stand. The games I played most for the N64 is Mario Kart 64, Super Mario 64, Star Fox 64, Smash Brothers. Yeah, and a few other ones. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up N64 related. And I'm going to be working on some big videos as well. And I got a lot of collaborative projects coming out with other channels and stuff like that. So it's going to be a big year, man.
Sounds
really
like
excited.
it.
And, it's just one of those things as retro gamers. YouTube is not easy for us.
No, not at all.
We just got to keep pushing at it and keep grinding and help each other out, right?
Hell yeah. Definitely glad you took the time to come hang out with me this evening. It was a blast. Had great conversation talking about the good old man games. Absolutely love it. Like hearing your perspective. I like hearing everybody's perspective that I have on. I like hearing different spins as far as their reasons for why they put games where they are, the stories behind them, and definitely look forward to doing stuff with you in the future, especially coming on playing some Streets of Rage, man. Any excuse I get to play that game, I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've done that game quite a few times on the channel, and like I said, thanks again for having me on. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely,
it's always fun to do something. Most of my audience is don't have a goddamn clue that I'm even, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because it's on a different channel. It's like they don't get
cool.
notifications.
It's fine. It's fine.
And I'm gonna get some subs coming your way because I got a lot of retro gamers in my Discord and with my community. So don't worry about that. We'll get some more. I got a few of them over there. I think it was like 5 or 6 you got.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
We'll get you there, bud. We'll get you to 1,000.
I hope I don't disappoint them. That's the whole thing.
Oh no. It's great stuff, man. You it was fun. I don't know if you ever do this again sometime or whatever. Let me know, or if you just want to do a podcast and we can just shoot the shit about stuff, man. Come up with some talking material.
Oh yeah.
And we can just sit down and just like completely talk it out.
Oh, absolutely.
Invite some other people on and just have a huge discussion, right?
Oh yeah,
because
I'm about it.
The reality is, we're getting older, and we got a generation. Well, we got a few generations now that are starting to dip their feet. I think one of the best things for retro gaming, people argue that Nintendo, with what they've done with their emulation aspects, is really bad.
Yeah.
But on the other aspect, Nintendo actually having emulated games on their Nintendo Switch Online is opening up to people that never would have played these games
Yep.
ever, right?
Yep.
So the cool thing is you can actually play Nintendo Switch Online retro games with other people that have a Switch, and it's actually not that bad. And really fun way to do it. I'm going to be doing a little bit of that this year again, and yeah, I just love it. I love retro games, love everything about them.
Do you happen to do
Like I
any
said,
retro achievement stuff? I just had to ask.
not so much. I've never been an achievement guy. I
No.
think most of my achievements come from. I just try to do impossibly hard things,
Yeah.
and I never worried about the achievements in Steam or any of that stuff either. I've never been that type of a gamer. I've been more of I want to do something really fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like really hard that just like challenges
The
me.
no
more
death
so.
runs on Battletoads.
Yeah, that was something, dude.
Jesus.
That I still can't believe I did that live, man.
Oh man, that's the best. That's the best right there.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to top that now. I
Uh,
could do the NES one and probably do it deathless, but I feel like there's aspects of the NES one that's not as hard as the NES or the SNES one. So I don't know. Should I do that? I don't know. I don't love it enough. I don't.
I
think to
don't
learn
love it enough
again.
to grind my brains out into oblivion.
Yeah,
Trying
and
to...
I'm a married man with a kid and stuff and a full-time career, so it's like, how do
Yeah.
I do that again? I don't know.
Exactly. No, I get it.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, everyone. Well, I hope we didn't bore you too much. I know that I expected towards the end of this, people were going to probably start filing out. I know how Sunday evenings typically go, but this is the schedule that I've been trying to keep. Now that I got little guy, it makes it easier for myself to stream on Sundays. But of course, whenever you and I decide to link up, we'll plan it out, so it won't be a problem. But just
Yeah,
for
don't even-
scheduling to try to stay current with my own channel is why I stick with Sundays. So that way it's a day that I know I can typically do without any interference or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense, man.
Um,
And yeah, thanks again, dude. It's a good time.
oh yeah, absolutely. All right, that being said, thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening and have a great week. I will see you guys in 2 weeks for the next stream. Have a great evening.